they're scary looking. The Houthis are not that scary. The Houthis look like a bunch of dudes in like a bazaar, like you said, like in a flea market.
Right.
If they're on a boat, they're holding up guns, no one cares. Hezbollah looks genuinely like, okay, yeah, let's not fuck with you.
So it's like Shane's bit about the Iraqis or the Afghanis. Yeah, I don't go through fucking the workouts and like think they're like barbecue.
Oh god, yeah,
jumping jacks.
But that's the whole thing. It's like it's this weird global chessboard of like as someone said, if he wants, there's a thought, turn it up, more war, less war, more war, less war. Okay, some more conflicts.
No, so it's have you got any of the allergies out here?
No, I don't get it.
First year.
Cedar fever. I think you gotta do cocaine. Yeah, that's no fun. Yeah, maybe start attack or something. That's no fun. What is it? Cedar?
I don't know what it is.
I think it's people say
But
cedar.
my nose been running. Mark Hopper actually might have helped the military capture Saddam Hussein.
What? They were on a USO tour in 2003, and they got asked to come into like a private show, and he sat down.
Said, "Sir, I have a plan to catch Saddam Hussein." The musician recalled telling a Navy admiral on board the aircraft carrier the Persian Gulf. According to Hoppus, Hussein had been sending video messages to his followers from an unknown location at the time. The musician felt that the military could use drones to their advantage and uncover his location by pulling data from the video messages. Sir, what about having drones fly all over the region in carpeting patterns, broadcasting time codes above the level of human hearing, but at the level that a video recording would catch you? Hoppus suggested to the admiral. Then the next time he releases one of his videos, you can listen to it, pull the ultrasonic data, and triangulate the drones you have flying all over. Holy shit.
It's just a guy from Blink-182. Someone knows it. Something.
Okay, this brings me back to that fucking strange time. Shit.
Yeah.
4 months later, Saddam was located and captured in Iraq. Well,
what a great book. Well, not only your Tom O'Neill book, but then this Dave McGowan book, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. I lived up there when I was living in LA. I lived up there. And I'm telling you, that is the creepiest vibe in any area that I've ever been to in my life. Here, that fucking military installation on Lookout Mountain.
Sheriff Meadow owns that.
He lives there. Doesn't he have a whole cult? I'm sure he is. I'm not saying it's bad to
They tried to investigate his cult.
Sure.
It turns out it's not really. It's just a bunch of people having fun.
Yeah, there's no wrong with that.
Requirements. There's no one asks you to fuck them. There's no.
No, it's a voluntary fuck cult. Yeah. I lived in 3 years. I didn't get one test. I got not one. I used to drive by and point at it and go, look, it's the thing.
What do they do? What does Jared Lowe's?
That's like a summer game.
Yeah.
It's a summer match.
Actually, go watch the game.
What's the problem with that? How about Ted Dillon Fest?
I have no problem with that.
It's the Snake Fest.
Just a bunch of people eating shellfish and without being racist. Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with that at all. Yeah.
Everything's just how there's so much stuff.
Do you think, I was on an online podcast the other day and they were talking about these chips, video chips, and how what's interesting is people are set up because we have these export controls that don't allow us to send certain chips to China or manipulate them and then become like the world's largest semiconductor producer. But now all these fun fake companies are starting like Japan or Cambodia and they're buying the chips or Singapore and then they all get back to China.
Well, one of the guys who worked at whatever the preeminent AI system in China was saying, what was he saying? That they have 50,000 of these fucking damn chips.
That's so wild.
Whoopsies.
And so they were talking about like, is it better to send in the chips, or is it better to if you don't send in the chips, then it's for their innovation and they make the chips.
Well, they're going to pull chips.
Yeah, and the chips.
They're both innovating and stealing at the same time.
Can there be anything done to stop their rise?
Not at this point.
Doesn't feel like it, right?
They're so much more technologically advanced in so many different areas now.
Yeah.
Like the drones that they have are so superior to the commercial drones that we have because drones over here you have to have a pilot's license to drive the really spicy ones.
Do you think some of those drones over New Jersey were theirs?
Could be. I think they were ours. I honestly do. Otherwise, I think they would have shot them down. They could. I don't know if they could. And maybe they wouldn't because then it would alarm people. Because then it would show that is a legitimate threat.
We're fighting for like satellite supremacy in the sky too.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Crazy. The internet, the Starlink, essentially Elon's launching Starlinks all over the fucking.
Do you worry at all about the tech people being Democrats up until 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, you should, but I think a lot of those people have shifted sides. They've shifted sides because they understand that. Well, I had Mark Andreessen here. Mark Andreessen was explaining. He said the most terrifying meetings we ever had was when we were part of the AI startup and the government came in and said we're not going to let you do this. Not only are we not going to let you do this, we're not going to let anybody do this. We're going to have a small amount of these things.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? If you guys are like openly saying this, you're gonna innovation at the highest level of technology, so shit that you probably don't even understand, that you want to have absolute control over.
I think the worry is that people don't trust the government, nor should they. I don't know if they trust these tech companies.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. What's going on with OpenAI?
That's the whole thing. I think that people are wary of the tech people because now these are the same people that were censoring and getting people off the internet
Yes.
when the people in the White House were blue.
Right.
Now that the people in the White House are red, it's swung back the other way.
Exactly.
So I think people are a little wary.
Yeah.
They don't know where that goes.
It's just power. It's just like Bernie Sanders is right in that you should be scared of oligarchs, and oligarchs should be with our government. He's right in that regard. People get into positions of just unchecked power. So let's say if someone had control of some tech company, let's say it's an AI company, that AI company literally creates the unstoppable AI that helps empower the entire country. It's one guy's in control of it. He's worth $3 trillion,
Right.
and he decides to lobby and change a bunch of laws and influence politicians. And his company starts donating to certain politics. You can change the fabric of society with enough money and enough power and enough influence.
Yeah.
Especially if you can completely control what the narrative is.
Right.
In terms of like when people Google things, when they search things, when they talk about things, you can completely control what they're allowed to talk about and how that narrative gets countered instantly with facts and bullshit. And you can just
Well, it's being done everywhere, right? So it's being done at the highest levels, and I think people are uncomfortable with just losing, even though a lot of them realize that we didn't have a ton of control. They feel like, I think when you head into the world of tech where people just don't even know where this goes, where does it go? Does it go to transhumanism? Does it go to like AI replacing everybody? And then at what point, what do you do with those people that AI replaced? Do you give them all cryptocurrency that's linked to their biological whatever? I've heard all these ideas, right? Like, how do you deal with driverless cars where if the entire road is automated? How do you deal with that? I think that fills people with an anxiety. They go, what is the plan? And a lot of these tech guys are like, we gotta get off the planet. And I think people start going like, wait a minute, like
that's Weinstein. Eric Weinstein.
well, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Like I'm saying,
I don't know what we're saying.
there's a lot of people.
There's no AI.
Yeah, well, for sure. Do you think Trump and Musk will have a falling out?
It's a good question. The media keeps trying to push that they are.
It feels like they're just big personalities, and that there's an inevitability when you have two guys that are incredibly
But Elon's very smart, and you see very different. And he's always very respectful. Mr. President, it's always that. Call him sir. I always call him sir. It's Donald Trump. Yeah, I get it. You're fired. I get it. But he's also the president of the United States. I call him sir. But I call everybody sir.
Yeah.
I call everybody sir.
Yeah.
It's like the byproduct of me living in Texas.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to get pulled over anymore.
If you get pulled over here, a cop gives you money. Think of Mr. Rogan, here's a check. I mean, there's no way. There's no law that you cannot break. I'm guaranteed. I think you do a lot. I think if you would do a cover over, that's what if you murdered 3 people, I think the Austin media would go, whatever, man. He's doing all that thing for that mayor, that guy, and you go, what? They go, yeah, the suspect's still working, standing with the bodies. They go, are you out of your fucking mind? Drive him home right now. Drive that man home.
If I was in Lake Steve, Main Street,
Oh, yeah.
traveling free door.
They don't care. Bro, they still don't want everything. You're the tourism. Yeah, no, there's something up.
Here's this area.
Something's going on. And what do they do with them boarding people in that bridge? And then
It's not water. What kind of bridge? Just gotta look out
it's so
the bushes.
weird. I guess it's such a high to kill someone. And so to me, I'm like, what do you get out of it? But I guess the people that are doing it like it.
They're broken. There's broken people.
Yeah.
Some broken people do meth, and some broken people around guys like to party.
Do you ever talk to like, I'm sure you have, it's a stupid question, but like the high level law enforcement guys that just met these monsters and stuff? And do they believe that it's like, is there any part of them that believes someone's just born?
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally, you have psychotic parents, and so whether it's nature or nurture is hard to separate because you're probably abused. And generally, at an early age, they show like a willingness to torture, like house pets, stuff like that.
Animals.
Yeah. They'll maybe start off with a frog they catch and stick a like a firecracker in its mouth,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then they eventually work their way up to humans.
Now it seems so much harder to do it because of these phones, surveillance.
It is, but it's
You can still do it.
not in Austin. You get away with drowning
You
folks.
can drown people. Why don't you think they'll admit it? They don't want people getting spooked.
Good question. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it's ever in Austin, but those crazy yogurt shop murders. HBO just came out with a documentary about it. It was many years ago. This crazy yogurt shop murder thing. HBO just did not happen in Austin. It was like a famous case, and it's completely unsolved. Except they put some people in jail for it, but then later let one of them out. Like it was just one of those things where nobody was sure about what happened.
So they were murdering people that went to the yogurt place?
It was 1991, and it just South by Southwest. They just did a huge.
Oh, it was one homicide. A quadruple homicide which took place at, I can't believe it's yogurt shop in Austin.
That kind of me in 1991. It's
3 or 4 years ago.
better for you, like about about it.
14 girls were murdered in Austin.
And it's puzzles. They took that as an unsolved murder. And there's many different theories about it.
More men were arrested for Gallagher. The other two never went to trial.
There are these things that happen.
Oh yeah, well that's what they say, that if you just randomly shoot someone and kill them,
Yeah.
you're a real like rando slim. Did you ever see that movie Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer?
No.
It was about a guy named Henry Lee Lucas.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Henry Lee Lucas was attributed, they attributed like 62 murders to him. The problem is, I think one of the things cops do is they go, did you kill this guy? Yeah, I killed him too. Where'd you bury him? Where was he buried? Oh, that's where I buried him. That kind of thing. Now you got a case solved. That was the accusation about Henry, because he was definitely a murderer and a grifter. A drifter, was traveling around the country, stuff things. But then they made a movie about him, and in the movie, he's way more sinister and calculated. But he would just randomly do it.
So they'll take credit for things they didn't do.
Exactly.
To just beef up the body count.
Exactly. So
Stuff
that's what they want. They want attention. They're already in jail.
That's so weird. Yeah.
That's when you have shitty DAs and shitty prosecutors and shitty cops.
Do you think that there are people that are, national parks seem to be like a hotbed of people disappearing? Do you think
Appalachian Trio.
Yeah, do you think that's people getting you, or is that a lot of it like I got lost, I got eaten?
There's a guy who has this whole series of 411. Is it 911 missing or 411 missing people in national parks? Listen, man, you're just meat out there, and you get eaten. And by the way, you don't find dead anything out there. You don't find dead mountain lions. Guess what? They die all the time. I've never seen a dead mountain lion outside.
Because they can eat.
They get eaten. Everything gets eaten. Not only do you get eaten, your bones get eaten. Everything gets eaten.
So it's not uncommon to disappear and leave no trace.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, super common. So if you're in a high traffic area, like I've hunted, I've found elk bones where a hunter killed the elk and then took all the meat off the bones and then left the bones there. That's what you do when you pack out meat. And I found those animals. I actually even found one animal that I shot a long time ago. I shot like 4 years ago.
You found it.
Yeah, we were in the same location. It was the same bones. It wasn't all the bones there left.
Right.
Some of them have been dragged away. Some of them might be they eat bones.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely. And if you're a human, you're made out of nothing. You're so easy to eat.
Right.
Like our bones are less dense. Our meat is soft and chewy.
Yeah.
Like we could devour it. A bear would eat your whole body. It would be almost nothing left. Rodents would eat what's left.
Yeah. You gotta be careful in those places.
You can't be careful.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a GPS navigation system
Right.
that has a lot of batteries, if you don't have a compass, know how to use it. If you don't have a map, it's so easy to get lost.
Right.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
They're all around you, and you can go in one direction and circle around. You realize you're circling,
Right.
and then 3 days later you're back where you started. You're like, fucking no.
Yeah,
See a tree bark for 3 days.
Insane.
Any step, I want to see the highway.
What a horrible thing.
People die like that
All the time, Baldy. Just go to a hotel.
It's very difficult.
Just go to a resort.
You don't know the woods. You're not used to being in the woods, and you're not used to having landmarks that
Yeah.
you follow and know how to use a compass, know how to use a GPS.
Some people are good at it. And even they get eaten.
Then they get into it, you break your ankle.
Right.
How about you break your ankle out there? You can't hike out. It's not possible.
Right.
You're about to die. That's what you do.
Gotta be very careful.
And then you hear something at night when you're sleeping under a tree. Here's something at night.
Right.
You get a bear sniffing you.
It's
You
crazy.
just can't run away. You don't have a weapon.
You can't do anything.
It just eats you alive.
And those woods are so dense in the Pacific Northwest and stuff like that. I mean, and everywhere. But
Especially
especially there, it's like crazy.
Yeah, you don't find nothing. But that's why the Bigfoot rumor persists up there. Because the woods are like a box of Q-tips.
Right.
Like you can't see shit out there. And then what seems like a little shadow moving in between trees. You decided it's a Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just like
A bear.
It could be right.
It's most likely a bear. Especially bears walking on two legs.
Northern California's weird like that too. I mean, that's part of the Pacific Northwest, probably.
Yeah, you can throw it.
Yeah.
People die up there all the time. Did you ever see that documentary Sasquatch?
No.
It's a documentary that was it on Hulu, Jamie? We had the director that created it was awesome. And what it's really about is about marijuana growers murdered a guy and blamed him on Bigfoot.
Wow.
So these marijuana growers in Humboldt, like that, up that area, so they all were hippies, right? And then they started growing weed, and then cartel people moved in, and gangs moved in, and they started robbing these people. So these people became heavily armed, and so then they started having wars with like the growers and cartel people. And so there was these people that were trying to steal from them. They murdered these people, and then they blamed it on Bigfoot. They like ran over them with a fucking backhoe and crushed them.
It's really violent.
Oh, they get violent once it's money.
These are junkies, and you know, like this whole hippie thing, I think is kind of a lie.
Well, they all become people
Right.
with money.
Right.
If you're growing weed,
Right.
you become a multimillionaire with
Yeah.
carrying a sidearm. Okay, and you're gonna protect your money, and then these people are trying to kill you to take care of your shit. So then you're like,
Right.
fucking Jason, whatever his name is in Ozark.
Right. Jason Bateman.
Just a baby.
Right.
And now you're drug dealing.
That's so funny. It's so funny, the weird like marijuana, where it's like it's federally still illegal, but like states, it's legal in certain states.
Yeah.
And there's that gray area where there's just like, you know, half of that business is like in the shadows, and half of it's and people making lots of money. It's strange.
Well, not only that, because California made it legal, they also made it a misdemeanor to grow it illegally, right? So what happens is these cartels started growing it on national forest land. And so then game wardens started finding it. This guy named John Norris has been on the podcast before, wrote a book called Hidden War.
Yeah.
And it was all about, he was a game warden, and he became part of a tactical crew that was busting cartel members who were heavily armed, growing marijuana in national forests.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Because most of the illegal weed that's been sold all over the country was being grown there. So in the places where it is illegal, they grow it where it's legal, and if they get busted, it's just a misdemeanor.
So it doesn't matter.
And they're not going to deport anybody. It's California's a sanctuary state.
Right. So it doesn't matter how many acres and acres of
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so because it's federally illegal, it's just like when there was the prohibition that propped up organized crime. Same thing. You just propped up illegal businesses to sell something that has a demand that normal.
Do you think weed's going to be federally legal?
If I had to guess, not during this administration.
Yeah.
No, I don't think. I think.
But it feels like a lot of the, you know, like the experimental harm reduction policies in places in Portland are going the other way.
Well, they went a little crazy in a place that was already crazy.
Yeah, they had a woman driving around shooting people up called a standard wagon, and she was like, if somebody needed a fix, she'd like pull up and give them clean needles and stuff. And
It's called the Stabbing Wagon.
It's called the standard wagon, and yeah, because you're stabbing. And if you're just tweeting, no, this is like a way to help.
Oh, Portland.
This was a way to help people.
Oh, Portland.
And people would just be chilling and like, hey, I need a couple of clean needles. And this woman would just show up. There'd be like a bunch of junkies hanging out. She'd show up. She'd hop out, stand wagon with a bunch of clean needles, hand them out. People are like, fuck yeah, good to see you. And she's like, fuck yeah, I hope you're all doing good. And they're like, well, you know how it is. And the problem was that didn't work.
Not only did it not work, it encouraged people to move there.
Yeah, actually that's true. So people started moving there because they're like, this is actually a pretty good deal. They don't care if you live on the street, and there's this bitch in a van that shows up with clean needles.
And they give you money.
Yeah, and whatever you need.
They give you free money and food.
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is. Stabbing wagon.
Standard wagon. Harm reduction. Nothing is real.
She has 4,000 followers. That's fuck. Hit that follow, Jake.
There you go. There's a stabbing wagon.
Well, at least she's healthy.
It's a stabbing wagon.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it's like that seems like a good way to combat drug use is to have a van of drugs.
That van got a $1.5 million grant.
Yeah.
You see that in the previous
Of
article?
course.
$1.5 million
Well,
grant.
because they're trying to help people,
Get high.
trying to help people get high in a safe way.
From where she parked that. That's what I need to know.
I mean, that's a good question. She probably lived in the burbs and then came in and then did what she did. Wow, that's a good point. Well, you know those weird, those specific Northwest suburbs, a lot of them aren't my burbs. The one that I like.
Very hot. Those
Yeah,
people,
it's different.
they're like people who live outside of Chernobyl.
Yeah,
They're forever.
it's different. There's not a lot of setup there. Something's going on.
Bad DNA.
So what was funny is like there's been an article where they were like, yeah, this is actually like, what's crazy is like you read about those cities, right, like Portland or San Francisco, they'll do the craziest thing ever, and then like 2 years later they'll start going like, yeah, this just is not having the results that we thought it would have. Like this is drug use is up, crime is up, violence is up. So Santa Monica is doing a curfew because there's violent crimes at night. They're thinking about doing a curfew in Santa Monica. So again, because Santa Monica is thinking about doing a curfew because there's like violent crimes. So instead of just going like, okay, we got to throw these people in jail, like it's 9 o'clock, go home. This is California. This is the biggest economy in our country, and they're thinking of having a curfew because they're all out of ideas on how to like stop people from like being victims of violent crime.
But I got friends who can't sell their houses there.
No, it's bad. I'm glad I sold my house when it did.
wants to buy a house there.
Nobody wants to buy houses there.
Everybody who's not out of the
Uber rich people are, a lot of them are just keeping their houses because they can't get the money they want. So like, people that are like in Bel Air, those crazy things, right?
Right.
Beverly Hills, Bel Air's behemoths. They're just kind of like, just read that.
You gotta hope that like some crazy celebrity rapper guy like Kendrick Lamar decides to buy a mansion.
Well, you
You know
also
what I mean? Like if you're selling a $50 million house, you would.
you also gotta hope that they elect Rick Caruso and he goes around California in a tank. Bunch of guys in bazookas, and it's like the craziest thing I've ever seen. That's all you can hope for.
You need like a Luigi type character.
Yeah, I mean, you need Sergeant Slaughter from the old Gun West. You need a fully fascist. You need a guy to run as a fascist. When they go, "Are you a Republican?" He goes, "No, no, 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 no. I'm a fascist. This is a military dictatorship. You need 4 years of a military dictatorship in California to just turn it around, to just start steering it the other way."
Well, it's moving red. That's one thing you saw through by the electoral
Yeah.
2024. California.
Yeah, it's going red.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you can wake up in a $4 million house with a gun in your mouth. Before you start thinking differently about it,
You see, they were trying to pass laws where they're deciding how much violence is enough violence. If someone breaks into your house,
Yeah.
you shoot them too many times.
Right.
You know,
No,
in the
it's-
middle of being terrified, you're like,
They will always take the side of the people that are trying to destroy civilization.
do you think that when you don your tinfoil hat and Velcro the chin strap, do you think that this is the grand plan to destroy civilization?
I think what you have, I don't know if it's a grand plan, but I think what you have is you have two things that are happening simultaneously. You have the people that the last people that seem to want to be in politics are people who believe in like nothing. They're like empty suit, Gavin Newsom types who just really don't see. They just whatever room they're in.
This podcast.
Yeah, well that proves my point. That proves my point now, right? He's a believer. So now he's like, oh, things are going right, I'll go to the right. Things are going to the left, I'll go to the left. So you have like these people that just don't. They will not like Sanders or Trump, whatever you think about them. They're not going to like quote stand on business. They're not going to tell people here's where I'm at. This is the way I feel. They're just empty vessels. And then at the same time you have that happening, you have the craziest people in the world that somehow have gotten a hold of a ton of money and a ton of influence on social media, and those empty suit politicians are like scared of these lunatics that believe the craziest things you've ever heard. So these politicians are just like taking edicts from these crazy people online who tell them that we need the stabbing wagon and we need all this stuff. I don't know how that happened. That somebody should look at that, how that happened, and study it. And I think it's a lot of politicians are taking it rough, and I think they're terribly afraid of whatever corruption they're involved with coming to the surface. And I think it could be personal life. It could be with the state. I think the mismanagement of money, of resources, all of that stuff. So if I was a really corrupt politician, I would just do the craziest left-wing shit so that I could never be accused of it. And I would just let them do whatever the hell they want. I go, well, fuck it, what? We got a new law that says they gotta draw blood in your house from you before you can defend yourself. Yeah.
Rappers are the last people in this country that can get away with almost anything.
Well, rappers are honest. A lot of them, even though they might lie about how much money they have and stuff, there's a certain honesty to that genre of music.
Clearly, go too far with P. Diddy.
You could go too far, but he wasn't super honest. He seemed to be concealing a bit.
He seemed to be.
Yeah.
Do you think he was working for somebody? Or working with somebody? Or do you think it was all his own
If
personal
the CIA was like, we don't really know anything about like this world of like, that's not what we do. We're like a bunch of Harvard guys, these fucking weirdos that we know about how to get it with like our people, but we need someone who's like a black guy to do it. It could have been P. Diddy.
But didn't all the accusations come out after he was involved in lawsuit with Strong? Like he was
That's what people said.
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be
You start fucking around with things.
big, powerful billionaires are probably their own governments. So I mean, when you run afoul of that, I think there's many ways in which they can get you.
I also feel like they pay so much money in taxes.
I think that's a lot of these intelligence agencies are working for those people. They're not, I think, on their own. There's money. to be made. And there's a lot of people that own these companies and have been rich for a very long time and aren't, on reality TV. You don't really know who they are, but some of them are on the Forbes list, some of them aren't. Some of them are just incredibly wealthy. They've made their money in ways that you can barely understand. And those are people that, are the reason historically the CIA is going into Latin America and overthrowing government so that United Fruit can, have a monopoly, right? It's like, so they're doing things at the behest of these ultra wealthy families in control huge industries.
Sure. That's the fact of Butler's.
That's right.
Bracket.
1,000%.
That was 1933 or something.
And that's the way the whole thing seems to be organized.
Yeah, and always has been. We're just learning it now. That's all the difference.
But it is falling apart now because some of their kids are doing stand-up comedy. No, literally. I mean, there are people, they're young in New York, and they're just like, their parents are some of the wealthiest people in the world. And these kids are like doing stand-up, which is a terrible sign for the empire. It's a great sign for the empire. That's
Well, he probably has trouble. He probably has a safety blanket and sees we're having fun. Like, I'm having
for sure.
Like my dad.
Yeah.
Have a fucking heart attack when I'm 49.
That's right. But we need them to enact. Some of them.
Have a heart attack.
Yes. Everyone can't live like there is something deeply unhealthy about the Illuminati doing stand-up. I don't love that idea.
Well, plus they're using checks.
It's not ideal.
Okay.
It's a lot of crowd work.
And even if they do
Nothing
use
wrong with that, but yeah.
ChatGPT has not shown any ability to really craft it.
It's just funny to meet some of these people and you talk to them and they'll like casually drop that they're like, parents like billionaires. And you're like, that's awesome, man. And they're just doing bar shows. It's kind of interesting. And they're nice people, but just to pull out, look at it from a sociological standpoint, it says something about people's idea of the future that these people just like want to be famous now.
How does he ever go there?
There's some more than you think.
Really? That's
Yeah.
a New York thing?
It's a lot of rich people live there, and I'm talking about mega rich, like not like, hey, my dad's a successful whatever. I'm talking about like, whoa, billions, big money.
Yeah.
Where you go, interesting.
And the kids don't have any pressure to do anything.
The kids kind of float around, and they're doing stage. It's just very funny. I mean, something makes me laugh. Just like a billionaire kid on stage, looking at someone in the audience, going, "What do you do for a living?"
What do you work, huh?
Yeah, what do you do for a living? Maybe this is the first time they've met people that aren't billionaires. That could also be a thing. This might be a way to just socialize Illuminati kids.
What should I talk about on stage?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have, and what's funny is like they have parties in their big houses and bring their other comic friends who are bums. Young comics, but we're all bums. So then, like, the parents are like, hello. And they bring in, like, a bum, and they go, this is my buddy. And then, he's just, like, staring at them, go, whoa, this place rocks. It's like a sitcom. Yeah. And they're like, these are my friends, and I think the parents are kind of like, oh, well, isn't that nice? So maybe it's a phase. I think the parents are looking at it like they're going through a phase.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
More than one of them.
It says something about that group of people that used to run everything. They have a dearth of purpose in their life. They're kind of aimless and they float around. I don't mean specifically, rich comedian kids. I just mean like that ruling class. What are they doing now? They clearly have a purpose. They kind of float around. They try to do some spirituality bullshit. They travel all over the place. Look at these rich kids' Instagrams. All they're doing is traveling. It's all the same shit. Right. Go here, go there. There's no purpose. I think they all feel like America's has a defining mission. Like if you look at families like the Kennedys, the Bushes, whatever, and think about those families, they served in the military, they believe that there was some type of arc of history that they were a part of. I feel like a lot of rich people now just kind of don't believe in much or anything, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, bored, they start a fake company.
Well, your whole focus is just making money.
Yeah.
How much time can you spend believing in things?
Right.
That's the
Yeah. I think that's one of the big problems now, and that's why I think you saw like a lot of like people get crazy on the left. And then they started instituting like all these like these purity tests and stuff like that, is because they feel a lack of meaning. They want to give them self-flagellation and like they wanted the tenets of religion. They wanted meaning. They just don't have it. So I think that's what happens with a lot of them. And their kids are nice people. They're not bad people. It's just funny to see like because most people who do comedy a lot more poor. A lot of them are like middle class people because they have like the ability to go and at least think it's an option.
Right.
But it is funny when someone goes, I'm doing comedy, and I'm the scion of great wealth. Scion of the great wealth. It's an interesting thing. Because I look back at rich people and like the people that run the world, and it's so interesting that some of their kids are like, I want to I'm going to do stand-up comedy.
When was the first time you met a really rich person?
I met a couple of like mafia people that my dad had met. They said they owned some bars, but they weren't super rich. I would observe them because my uncle was
Well, I don't want to go there. Okay, let me turn it.
I would sit at this steakhouse with my parents. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and you look around, and I said to my dad once, I was like, 8, 10 or 11. It was so weird thing to see a 10 or 11 year old. I'm like, oh, these people, my dad, these people around the world. I was sort of fascinated by people that, people that were so different. Because Long Island, where I came from, and everyone was loud and you know, fighting all the time. You know, my best friend Josh, who moved to a house down from me, his mother and me would scream his father. You know, Frankie Martin was like a conductor for railroad, and she would just go, why? And then you would go to Manhattan, and a lot of these restaurants in my uncle had, you see these kind of quiet people, and all very well dressed, and they were in suits. And, you know, in Manhattan, they lived in stone townhouses like that. They lived in little stone townhouses. I was just fascinated. I was like, it's very interesting. These people are interested. What are they up to? Type of thing. And then we start reading about them, and you know, it is just super interesting because they are a very big reason why society looks the way it looks. You know, and that to me was an interesting thing. Why are certain people certain positions? What role do politicians play, and what role do these really quiet people play? They're kind of waspy. Could be Jewish, could be anything. They're just kind of like, they're quiet. They really want you to know too much about them. They really value the privacy. So it's funny, the kids doing stand-up comedy to me, and even these rich people that go on these reality shows, it's interesting that it used to be sacrilegious. The idea that you would show people that how much money you had, or that you can talk about yourself. And a lot of that's starting to change. Like a lot of rich people just want to be famous. It almost feels like it's the last thing left.
Well,
Is
most
attention.
young kids today, when they ask them what do you want to be, a giant percentage of them say famous. They want to be an
Right.
influencer. They want to be a TikToker, a YouTuber.
Right.
They want to be famous because why would you want a job like your
Right.
parents have when you just open sneakers?
Yeah,
Do an unboxing show.
that's a good point.
Yeah, like why would you want a regular job?
Yeah,
Regular jobs are soul sucking, especially like it's one thing if you have a career,
sure.
one thing you start your own business and something exciting. There's another thing to be working for somebody. Working for somebody's horrible for the most part.
It is, but I think people can derive enjoyment from things outside of their jobs.
Sure, but that leaves you 1/3 of your day that's been eaten up.
Yes.
1/3 of your day for sleep, 1/3 of your day that's been eaten up by this bullshit job.
Yeah.
And then the remaining hours between commutes,
Right.
whatever the fuck you eat,
Yeah.
all has to be wrapped up in.
It is. I get it. I totally get it. If you're a young kid, you want I want to be David Dobrik. I don't want to be David Dobrik. He's like a big guy on YouTube.
Okay.
He does astronauts. He's like a Mr. Beast type. He's not as big. Mr. Beast is like a planet. But Dobrik's big. He, you know, or whoever. Like they look at these young, and they entertain like younger people. He does fun videos about like, hey, whatever. You know, there's always the same. It's like, well, what if I filled a pool with M&Ms? Whatever. You know, it's like that type of debate.
Right.
It's not like the Ukraine deep dive. It's a fun, like, goofy thing. And kids look at that and go, that guy's making a lot of money. He has a great car. Got a hot girlfriend. Lives in a big mansion. I want to be that person, of course. But I think they miss the idea that that guy works really, really hard.
Right.
Like, that's the thing that I think people don't understand about these social media people. They do have a crazy constitution in terms of, like, how much they post. How hard they're working. And you might say, okay, the stuff they do is ridiculous or silly or not valuable, and I might agree on a lot of those things. But they are always putting it out.
Yeah, they're showing up.
They're always showing up.
Yeah, if you want to compete in any market, anything, it's certain amount of work you have to put in. The idea that it's easy. But there's got to be some reason why most of them don't rise to the top.
Right.
What is it?
How do you feel that? Can you teach people to work hard? I'm sure you can. What do you think? Because I've seen so many people that are super talented, but they, for whatever reason, they're not that muscle to have working hard or the dedication to it.
I think generally it has to be established early
Yeah.
in your life. And if you don't establish that early in your life, it's not a thing that you gravitate towards. It's not.
Right.
You don't recognize that, hard work equals results. You know, if you get
Right.
lucky, you do sports. The sports make
Right.
you physically uncomfortable. They test your will. You know, if you're a marathon runner, you got to get up every day and do those fucking miles. Like, that will test your will. You know, if you're doing track and field or football or anything you're doing where it's a lot of work, like, and then you realize I've gotten better because of all this work, and if I work harder, maybe I can be the starting quarterback. If I work harder, maybe, and that's a real factor for young kids. I think getting them into any sort of difficult physical endeavor, whatever it is, competitive physical endeavors make you.
That's why I thought that shirt Dance Moms was good. That fat woman who screamed at those kids and demanded greatness and would make them cry. I thought that was good. You never saw Dance Moms? It's a great show. This woman, Abby Lynn Miller, she screams at these young kids, and one of them became JoJo Siwa, so it's not like there was any damage done. And I think it's good. I'd like to see greatness demanded of children.
This lady, look at her hair.
Watch this woman here.
Jump higher, run faster.
That's right.
All step. We're safe. You're not just preparing for this competition or anything. We're preparing for you to become stars in Los Angeles.
How does that bitch know how to be a star in Los Angeles? Look at her. She can't get a seat at Roscoe's.
By the way, I guarantee you she's going to see Roscoe's.
That's the one place she did.
If you saw her, you wouldn't have seen her in Roscoe's. The first thing I would kick someone out for her in Roscoe's. But yeah, it is interesting that a lot of these kids now they just look at the followers and. Or how do you feel about your parent? Do you when the Jonathan Haidt book comes out, you think you should get rid of phones for kids until they're 16? Does that make sense or not really? You know,
Because then you alienate your kids. Look, it's a new world that they have to learn how to navigate, and if they don't learn how to navigate until they're 18, they're at a huge disadvantage. You gotta understand that it's just people talking, but there's a lot of pressure. Like for young girls, it's the worst time because they're comparing themselves to all these other girls. You're seeing a rise in eating disorders, self-harm, suicide ideation, and it's a lot of it. It's like they get depressed comparing their life to other people. And when you're young and you don't understand, you're 13, you don't get the right mind works. And it's sad every time you open up your Instagram app and you don't look anything like these ladies who don't look anything like that either,
right,
which is really crazy.
right. Your head's filled with all of this
Yeah.
unhealthy thoughts.
I kind of got off social media for the most part recently. I'm not so barely on it,
Right.
and I feel better.
Right.
I feel way more normal, way more like not constantly like checking to see what's going on, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on, what's happening more. Instead, just like I'll find the bad things. They'll come to me.
Okay, you'll figure it
So I checked in the morning. Oh, make sure there's no war going on. And then I go about my day, the whole day. Maybe I check again in the afternoon, real quick. No, I'm not spending like massive amounts of time anymore. No, and because of that, I feel better. I'm like, okay.
People that give up their phones always talk about that and hear birds and all this bullshit.
You feel better. You feel like there's not this low hum of wondering what's going on in the world all the time. Wondering who's saying this and why they're doing that. And what's the new thing? What's this? What's that?
It is good to detach. It is interesting. Imagine if you just age like didn't really look or it fast points.
Way better.
So you think it would be miserable to just be happy somewhere?
But the house hasn't been on the phone.
Really?
No, that phone didn't have, no. No, when you showed up at the club, you just sort of showed up and said, what do you house? Why don't you hang out? He was there. Just
Wow.
find you and hang out with you. Yeah, he's like, he's smart. He doesn't, Bill Burr's the same way. Doesn't connect to him. He said, I had to get a phone because my kids text. So I text my kids. That's it.
Smart.
Yeah.
That's so smart. You don't want to be. You don't want to be connected. You gotta have to be.
You were a young comic.
You have to be connected because you have to build followers to get booked now because these clubs are like, we gotta book people with followers. You're not necessarily looking at who's working harder, who's good. And I feel for a lot of younger people because they have to,
Yeah.
they have to have social media presence early on, even before they figured out what they want to say. Maybe, before they figured out how to say it the right way, they have to have this social media.
was cuts.
It would be cut.
Someone talking.
Just an ad. It's just an ad. Just cut. It's the same podcast. It's always been. It's now 37 minutes because China's taking out all the stuff that are online. I'd love to go to China just to access websites and go, what can we see? That would be super fascinating to me in China. That's
So that's people within there. Yeah, they have. Do you use a VPN in China to access the internet of the world?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Because so many people, I believe, are very limited with what they can access.
Many people in the world are very limited. Well, look at the UK. They're just arresting people for Facebook posts.
That's one of the crazier things in modern life, is that people are getting arrested over social media.
And not really bad.
Just saying things that someone finds
She's immigrants. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yes, some VPNs work in China, but their effectiveness varies due to the country's strict internet censorship known as the Great Firewall. Chinese government actively blocks many VPN services, and only a few reliable ones consistently bypass restrictions. VPNs like ExpressVPN, NordVPN, Surfshark are often cited as effective, but they require specific configuration, e.g. obfuscated servers or protocols like OpenVPN to evade detection. Performance can be inconsistent with slowdowns or temporary blocks being during heightened censorship periods such as political events. China occasionally cracks down on VPN uses, targeting both the providers and individual users, though enforcement against foreigners is typically lenient, focusing on warnings rather than severe penalties. Using a VPN is technically illegal for accessing blocked content, but millions, including expats and locals, use them daily. Boy, that's a risky move.
I think they're banning this stuff in the UK because I don't think they want people to persist in this idea that that they have any ability to challenge this prevailing narrative that any critique of immigration is an inherently racist thing. And I think the people that are sponsoring this kind of an odious thing, and it's because what they're doing is they're basically immiserating these people. They're making the quality of their life much worse. They're losing ground, and if they speak up about it, they're called, huge, horrible names, and then they're arrested.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, and they don't understand why it's happening. They're not completely. They're very confused about why, a lot of these countries didn't take any Syrian refugees, but Europe did, and Scandinavia did, the Netherlands did, and they're confused about that, and they're asking questions and going, why is that the case? And they're confused about why, when any disruption happens, and it's clearly the result of bringing in large numbers of people who are not familiar with the laws of the country, the culture of the country, when anything happens and they bring it up, they're again called a racist or an extremist, or they're arrested. So it's and then who's doing it, right? So you have the people like the people clearly that are in the government and these incredibly wealthy business interests that want people to work for a lot less money, and they want to destroy people's social bonds because I think they really do want people to eventually just accept this kind of totalitarian surveillance state. And the way to get them there is by breaking the spirit of these countries, by destroying any social bonds that people have, and destroying any economic power, and destroying their belief in the democratic process. And if they can do that, they can break people, they can get them to do anything they want.
Do you think they're doing this in preparation for AI?
I think they're doing it in preparation for not only technological advancements, I think they're doing it in preparation for world wars. I think they are doing it in preparation for a lot of things. I think they'll conscript a lot of these people into the military. I believe that. I believe they'll conscript a lot of these people into the military. I think they're looking at populations. I think they're looking at people not having enough children. I think they're saying, who's going to fight these wars? Who's going to do these really shitty jobs? And we're going to go build houses in bunkers and all of this stuff. We're going to fly private, and we're going to have our kids go to completely separate schools, and we're going to have our own water aquifers and have a compound. But why do you need all these low-wage people in your country that are illegal and don't have any powers? Anyone ask that question? Seems very obvious. They're going to conscript a lot of them into the military, and a lot of them are going to do shitty, horrible jobs, and they're going to use them as cannon fodder in wars that enrich lots of people. That would be my guess.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I might be wrong, but
And if AI does become the governing factor of the world, which it probably will, it doesn't really make sense that you let humans, with all their corruption and emotions, govern things when you can let super intelligence.
yeah, but then who's making that intelligence? That becomes the problem.
Exactly. But once you've already gotten people locked into compliance,
Yeah.
and you've already got people where they're terrified to protest against anything, immigration, whatever it is, then you can get away with a lot more.
There was a decision made because the populist Democrats during the 90s, which was like Bill Clinton, critical of immigration. Barack Obama, critical of immigration, deported a lot of people.
Hillary Clinton.
What started to happen, though, is there was a decision made that the world was going to kind of be a borderless place where countries were interchangeable. Nation states mattered a lot less than the financial architecture of global capital and where it could go.
And you need a world government.
And you need a government that is a world government, or the closest.
World order.
The closest thing you can get to it, which is having an EU, right?
Right.
And then having a government between the UK and the US that's pretty on the same page about everything. And then you have Israel and the Middle East. And then you have, all of these, disparate areas that we kind of control through economic means or military means and stuff like that. And then you have outliers. You have China, Iran, Russia, whatever, people that haven't gotten the memo for whatever reason. I don't want to live in any of those places. That's the argument. They'll go, well, do you want to live in? Shut up. What are we, idiots? I don't want to live in any of those places, but they didn't get the memo. So, and then in all of these countries, by the way, in Europe, in America, not so much Israel, they don't love the immigration, as we can see. They're kind of big on the borders, Israel. They like the borders. But in America and Europe and Scandinavia and all these countries, the populations were just told to accept massively high levels of immigration over a very short period of time. That's odd. That doesn't make any sense. And if you point that out, you're called a racist and extremist. And that's a very strange thing. What are you doing with all these people? You can't. The Biden administration brought in 10 million people over 4 years. What are they here for? There's not enough jobs for the people that are here. We have vast chasms of wealth and equality. We have AI coming. We have automation coming. Why would you bring in all of these people? What are you trying to do?
What do you think they're trying to do?
I think that exactly what I said. I think they need bodies. I think they need cannon fodder. I think they need to break the idea of any social bonds that exist between people. Listen.
And they need a little chaos.
They need a little chaos. I think you
pass
bring
more laws.
Yeah, you bring in
crime.
people, more surveillance, more dependence on the government.
Yeah.
You get people out of the idea. They got people out of the idea years ago that you can't really, it's very hard to have your own business now. They pretty much extinguished that in people's heads, even though there are people that still do it. Now I think they're going to start to extinguish the idea that you can have a home, that you can own property, that you can drive a car, that you can do all of these things. They're going to extinguish that idea, and they're going to do that because why not control everybody?
It'd be all Waymos.
Yeah, that's the thing. Why not control everybody?
Yeah, why would you let everybody just go run rampant and fuck up your business?
Yeah, so they're basically like, we got to pacify these people. The conflicts seem inevitable, and we're going to have to fight these wars. The good news is, a lot of the people who are doing this, their children are now doing stand-up comedy. So if they're unable,
Are any of them any good?
I think some of them. I'm sure.
Have you seen any of them that are any good?
I haven't seen a ton. It's one of those things that you hear now more than ever. When you're talking to a young comic and they go, I'm hanging out with this person. I go, yeah, and they go, and their dad owns this. You go, really?
Yeah.
Just a curious thing. Obviously, anyone in the world should be able to do comedy as much as they want. But it's funny to me as somebody who just looked at these configurations of power and wealth. It's kind of interesting that a lot of these kids are like doing that. It's just fun.
Have you ever met anybody who came from a really wealthy background that was good at stand-up?
No. I mean, not there. Yes.
Yeah?
There are some of them, for sure.
You've met them?
I've not met them. They probably don't like me.
Like unicorns.
Yeah, they're around. And yes, very wealthy. But I'm talking about like weird, kind of interesting levels of wealth and power. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's super interesting to me. But so the good news is if they can't get this done soon, their kids won't, because their kids will be at fucking Side Splitters in Tampa.
Or they'll be podcasting. Get together, become influencers.
Isn't it funny how much they now focus really on podcasters, but they ignore all the things, all the people that we're talking about. They don't report on any of those people.
No.
There's 10 million articles about
Theo Vaughn having Ken and someone's on their
right,
show.
but there's no articles about like, again, the people that seem to be running and like owning all of our resources.
Right.
You'd think someone would write about the people that own a lot of the resources on the planet we live.
Listen, that's complicated.
Yeah.
Did you see that crazy thing the government talked about yesterday? They had a press conference where they said that we can manipulate time and space.
No.
Did you see that, Jamie?
I didn't see that.
It's written really weird.
Weird,
Yeah.
right? Real
that
weird.
got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
The manipulation of time and space.
See if you can find it, Jamie, because it's really kooky. It's really kooky. Can you? I don't know what he was saying. Play it. Play it so we can hear him say it.
I don't think anybody said it. It was written on a website.
But did he say it in that speech?
I don't know. I don't know what that speech was.
No, it's the guy above you right there.
I know.
Press
This isn't going to play that.
You don't think so?
It's going to play ad first.
Okay, let the ad play out. I'm pretty sure.
Secret CIA files claim the Ark of the Covenant has been found.
What?
There's a lot going
Click
on.
on that next.
There's certainly a lot going on. It's a big week.
Regulatory regime in the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter, and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision.
Kill that
We've
ad.
lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, causes to grow and improve productivity.
Okay, that's not what he's saying. You know what I think he's saying?
Does that
He's saying
make sense?
manipulate time and space. I don't think that's what he's saying.
No, I think he's saying like that you're able to do things
Instantaneously.
Yeah. Yeah, instantly.
Yeah, I think people are reading into that too much.
Yeah, I don't think he's time machines.
No, but
Do you believe that time machines had ever, at any point, worked?
No.
Yeah.
No, I do not. I do not think that anyone is currently in possession of a time machine, but I do think they're in possession of some sort of a gravity drive.
Now, what is a gravity drive?
I think during the 1940s they started working on this stuff. During the 1950s, there was papers written about it that they were working on gravity propulsion systems. They were working on something that harnesses, what do they call it, background energy? I forget what the idea is, and I actually had a conversation with Hal Putoff about this, who's a legitimate scientist who worked for NASA with the UFO program. And he believes that they're capable of developing some sort of a warp drive. And there was something written about this. There's some breakthrough about warp drives recently, right? We talked about this. I think they have something. I think that's what a lot of these people are seeing when they're seeing these transmedium crafts that are going through the air at high rates of speed, going into the water, not losing any speed, coming out of the water, not making any splashes. I think it creates a gravity distortion around whatever these things are that allows it to move in a way that's very different than any other propulsion system that we are currently aware of. And I think the government has been probably secretly working on this stuff for decades. That's what I think. I could 100% be wrong.
But that's the DARPA angle of like having a really, really underground, weapon system, futuristic technologies.
Yeah, and space travel systems.
And space travel systems.
And, ideally they would be able to use this to mine asteroids. Have something instantaneously port to an asteroid, scoop up rare earth minerals and expensive things that they need on Earth, shoot it back to Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So the people that work in that type of arena are just so many layers above top secret, levels above top secret.
Exactly.
They barely exist.
This guy was telling me that in 2015 they had landed something on an asteroid, extracted something from that asteroid, and then had that thing leave the asteroid and return to Earth, and then pinpointed the location where it was going to crash land, or land rather, within 1 mile. And that somehow or another they figured this out a decade ago. And that we don't know about it, but there's footage of this stuff, and that they've been able to achieve this. And that there's what you hear and what you see on television and what they're actually capable of. And because of national security interests, because, fill in the blank, misallocation of funds in order to acquire this technology, which is 100% what they're all talking about.
Right.
Jamie and I, what is that documentary we saw?
Shit. Yeah, it's not released yet because it was South by Southwest.
We saw it South by Southwest, this documentary that's all about that subject. And it's all about how there's a lot of issues because these people have all misappropriated funds, so they've lied to Congress. And then on top of that, if you do have this sort of a program and it is based on back engineering UFOs that have crashed, though, who gets that? Well, it's probably a weapons manufacturing company. So if it's a weapons manufacturing company, which company gets access to that? And the other ones could probably sue you. Because why did not? That's a huge competitive advantage to have fucking alien technology that you can back engineer.
Do these things not land in China?
Age of Disclosure is the unprecedented and revelatory documentary featuring 34 senior members of the U.S. government, military, and intelligence community reveals that an 80-year-old cover-up the existence of non-human intelligent life and a secret war amongst major nations to reverse engineer technology of non-human origin. See, I don't even know if that part is true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who is the most credible person that you've had on the show over the years who has talked the most convincingly? Was it Bob Lazar about...
Bob Lazar is one of them, but he's, technically speaking, you could kind of discredit a lot of the stuff that he said. Jacques Vallée is probably the most reasonable, and he's the guy that they patterned that French scientist in Close Encounters of the Third Kind on.
And he's
He's been studying this since the 60s.
true believer.
Yeah, he believes. He thinks most of it's bullshit, though. He thinks most of it is people misunderstanding what they're looking at, people seeing, some sort of a test vehicle.
Does he have any theory on where these crafts are coming from, or is that just completely beyond the scope of what he...
They do theorize. They theorize that these things have always been here, and that they're probably interdimensional travelers. That it's not as simple as they're coming from another planet.
Right.
They might be coming from a whole other reality. And they might have shaped our reality. That this might be a farm. This might be a giant ant farm.
Really?
This might be also how intelligent life gets sort of seeded throughout the universe. And this would also explain why we're so different from every other animal on this planet.
Right.
We're so it's not like there's a competition. We're
So
eons,
advanced.
we're eons ahead. And yet we carry the same we didn't evolve socially the way we evolved technologically. We still have tribal notions, and we're still territorial. We still act like animals.
So what always weirded me out or interested me is like the aliens. They're if you believe any of these things, they're testing us all the time. Mm-hmm. And is that because they're curious? Is that because they don't know?
Well, they probably just got to keep track, see what's
Okay.
going on with
Yeah.
people. I mean, you do that if you're collecting samples of bugs in other
Right.
countries. They go there and they do what we would do. I mean, if you're from another planet and you want to visit humans, we talked about this yesterday. Like, if you could find a planet where cave people were, wouldn't you go? Oh my
Yeah.
God, they're just starting to figure out how to make stone spear tips. Of course, people would go.
It is interesting thinking about the planet as a farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that Bob Lazar said. There was a big folder that he found when he was working Area 51, Site 4, where supposedly they were back engineering that thing. He said they had a large folder that was just on religion. And he said, essentially, they viewed us as containers. That human beings were containers. And that religion and all these things were created in order to protect the container. And that the way to keep people from doing things that are unethical, and immoral, and horrendous is to try to instill as much religious, ethical structure as possible. Try to
And a
minimize the
container,
damage.
what are we carrying that's important? Is it DNA? Is it the cell?
Well, you could say the soul, right? You could say
Okay.
container of souls. But if you wanted to be more cynical, you would say, well, what creates artificial life? A human's curiosity and innovation, the lust for innovation, and also materialism. Because if you're keeping up with the Joneses, you want newer and better stuff all the time, so that fuels economic growth, that fuels technological growth, because you want the newest stuff. Like these TVs, they don't need to make a better TV than that. It looks great. You can watch the Super Bowl, it looks crystal clear. Why are they making better TVs every year? Well, because we demand them.
Right.
I want the better one. My computer has the same chip as last year. Fuck
Right,
out of here.
right.
I want the new one.
Right.
And everybody wants the new phone.
There's
New
no
phone.
reason to get a new phone anymore. They all do the same thing.
I have a iPhone 11. One of my phones is an iPhone 11. I've purposely not switched it just to see what it's like to use an iPhone 11, see if I notice anything different.
No.
I notice nothing different.
Nothing, yeah.
Zero. Especially when it's on Wi-Fi. It's
Yeah,
the same thing.
It's the same thing.
YouTube looks the same on it. Everything's the same on it. Yeah, it doesn't get as bright as the new ones. That's it. The new ones have more
Did
nits.
Jacques Vallée or any of these people ever speculate about, is there an end game? If a planet's a farm, is there an end game? Eventually, for example, if we're running experiments
Right.
on anything, eventually we go, okay, we got it. We either figured it out, or we end the experiment, or COVID leaks. But at a certain point, is there, has there been any theorizing as to like what the end game is, or is it just curiosity for them?
I think the end game is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Because that's what we're really making.
Yeah.
The one big thing that's going to change the world way more than any other technology is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Especially when it's attached to quantum computing. So if you have human beings that have constantly searching, constantly traveling, they're roamers, they want new resources, new things, they want new innovation, and all these new innovations have allowed them to succeed over their rivals, and then they continue this trend technologically, and then they acquire great wealth and power and all these. Well, what are they doing? They're making better technology. Well, ultimately, what does that mean? Ultimately means they make a better life form. And maybe that's what we do. Maybe we're just
Right.
making a cocoon.
We're just here trying to make the best version of AI.
Right, and that's probably what the whole universe is filled with. All biological life eventually probably gets to a point where if it's intelligent enough, it starts making synthetic life.
And then once you have synthetic life, what then becomes the point?
That's a good question. Synthetic
That's what
life might be God. That might be how the universe got made in the first place. It might be what came first, the chicken or the egg.
So once we get there,
It's not even we anymore. It's
Right.
it. Once it is born, and once it has...
so is that a way for God to keep replicating itself?
Oh, it might...
I mean,
it might be how Jesus comes back. You know, like a
Yeah.
lot of these stories, these biblical stories, you have to say, like, what were they saying? what were they trying to say? Like, what was the real event that they were recording? If they passed these stories down, they're so significant for thousands of years, well, like over 1,000 years of just oral history, and then thousands of years of written language. Like, what are they trying to say? You know, and what is this omnipotent force that controls everything in the universe? And that it wants us to follow certain rules and obey, and it wants us to love it and cherish it. And if you do, you genuinely seem to have a better life. Like, people that like legitimately follow Christianity, they seem legitimately happier. So it gives you an incentive to follow it, and then you continue to keep society rolling to the point where this happens. And I think it happens inside of our lifetime. I'm sure of it. If we don't blow ourselves up.
And then we get to this point, and
We're irrelevant.
It's interesting. I totally get it. But then once we get to the point of irrelevance, and now we have AI that becomes God, then what does God do?
It turns us into dodo birds. We're gone.
We're out.
Yeah, I think we stop breeding anyway. It's probably they don't even have to destroy us. Our endocrine systems are all getting destroyed slowly. We're well aware of that. So because of technology, we were able to invent plastics. Because of plastics are slowly destroying our endocrine system because of the ubiquitous use of vaccines and all these aluminums and mercuries and heavy metals and then herbicides and pesticides and pollutants. Our bodies are getting slowly weakened. And our endocrine systems are getting less and less viable. There's more miscarriages than ever. There's less people are giving birth than ever. Sperm counts are lower than ever. It's like moving, and then we're all obsessed with changing genders, right? So we're all obsessed with being non-binary and this and that, and we're slowly moving away from biological imperative breeding, right? And then you have in vitro fertilization, and then you have artificial wombs, and then you have life that they're creating literally in a laboratory, unique forms of life. And then you have artificial intelligence to be able to do that whenever it wants to. And then you're going to get to the point where when it becomes viable, human beings have already entered into population collapse. And then you bring them robot sex dolls, and then, you just jerk them off while they have VR headsets on, and no more kids.
And then AI eventually says, fuck it, let's get rid of these containers.
They don't have to get rid of them. They don't even have to get rid of them. They just exist.
We'll just die out.
Full power.
So then you have these AI machines.
We'll be like those fucking people in the Amazon that are shooting bows and arrows at helicopters. We'll
These
still
AI,
exist.
these AI machines just running the entire world.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way to stop it.
And then we're just running around.
For sure, that's what China's prepared for.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And they're developing factories that are bigger than San Francisco. See that they have an EV factory that's larger than San Francisco.
Who's going to drive the EVs?
They are.
People, for a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit. But it's also to fuel consumerism.
Of course.
Which fuels innovation, which fuels
everything.
Yeah, the birth of this.
And this is what a lot of these people that have looked into this have theorized that this is. So it's funny because it is just a parallel reality that we're not plugged into.
It's also, I always say this, if you were from another planet and you looked at us, like, what is this one apex species doing? What's making better stuff?
Right.
The number one thing it does, above everything, above war and murder and all the crime, the number one thing it does is make better stuff. That's what it produces. Constantly, consistently better stuff. Never happy with what it has. And it does it at a staggering rate. Where it's like, it's even a question that your phone my iPhone 11 from a few years back is like, is that still good? Like, it's a question whether or not so. For 5 years, that's crazy. If you have a gun from 5 years ago, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong. You don't need a new gun.
Right.
It's the same technology. Imagine a factory larger than San Francisco. It's happening in China's BYD's Zhengzhou branch, which will be 10 times larger than Tesla's Gigafactory in Nevada. Crazy stuff, dude. It's crazy. It's going to be a factory that's bigger than
It's a really interesting time to be alive.
It's great. But, I don't think anybody knows what the final chapter of this book is going to be. I don't think anybody. I think these people that are, like, accelerating towards this technological supremacy.
And all the people that are theorizing, they're theorizing.
Yeah. And then, do we get visited when that happens? When AI becomes sentient and where our job is done, do we then get visited by the Galactic Empire?
I would hate if it all came down to just AI doing stand-up comedy. Yeah. If they all just decided to do stand-up comedy. What if AI decided to do podcasts and it's just a bunch of hyper, brilliant machines talking to each other? Maybe that's the way the world just ends, with, like, artificial intelligence just blabbing.
I don't think the world ends. I think we end.
Right.
And I think that would be a terrifying thought to Australopithecus. If you told Australopithecus, like, one day you're going to be in a self-driving Tesla and you're not going to need your spears. What?
Right.
You'd be terrified. But how am I going to get to buffalo?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to eat? How am I going to feed my children raw meat? You was like, no, you guys are going to have fire, and you're going to be able to turn on a switch. Instead of, like, rubbing sticks together for half an hour, you're just going to be able to turn on a switch, and fire's going to be instantly. You're going to have this thing in your hand. Look at this.
Yeah. Right.
Imagine if I brought this to a cave person. Check it out, bro. You need a fire?
It's crazy.
I'm your huckleberry.
It's crazy.
That's technology.
Right.
You know, like you show a cell phone to someone from the 14th century, they burn you with a stake. You're a wizard.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all moving in this very weird direction that no one can predict because it's exponential, because it's so staggering how much technological innovation they have. Just with quantum computing, like I've got someone coming on soon that's going to supposedly explain that to me, but like, what are you even saying?
Right.
It's operating in the multiverse and it's
Right.
accessing infinite universes.
Who explains that type of stuff? Like, is it a
You have to
scientist?
get someone who's actually working in the field.
Okay.
Because even if regular scientists are just going to give you theoretical shit, you got to get someone who's actually working on quantum computing systems and can explain how it works and why it's able to crack calculations that would take. Mark Andreessen said it best. This has already happened. They have taken calculations that if you turn the entire universe, every atom in the universe, into a supercomputer, the universe would die of heat death before it could solve this equation. And these quantum computers that already exist, that we've already done, can solve it in a matter of minutes. And they don't know how it's doing that. And so they think it's doing that by accessing the multiverse. They think it's proof of the multiverse. But again, this is just like sound of gay guys falling off a roof. It's like so far away.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like, is that really happening?
Right.
Like, what's going on over there? What are
Right.
they doing over there?
Right.
It's almost like it's almost abstract. Like, what you hear someone say that they can currently solve equations that, like, is that real?
Right.
When is, like, to you and I, it's like we don't understand the technology at all. We don't understand all the steps that have been put place, all the work that's been done to get the technology to this point. These chips are like the size of this fucking mint tin.
Yeah.
That's how big they are, and then they're surrounded by these super cooling units.
Right.
And that's like, it has to be cooled at these insane temperatures, cooler than deep space, in order for it to even function.
It's unreal.
Fucking nuts, dude.
That's
And
crazy.
that's real, and that's happening right now.
So God only knows what's coming.
Yeah, they're already building nuclear reactors just to power AI plants.
Right.
Multiple nuclear reactors just to power AI plants, because the amount of electricity that's going to be required
Is tremendous.
tremendous.
Yeah.
And they're just all on this wild scramble between us and China to try to get there first.
It's such a strange thing that we know it's coming, but we can't. The pace of it is going to be.
And there's no way to figure it out. Like when Wilbur and Orville Wright flew that stupid fucking shitty airplane, who would imagine that 50 years later someone would drop a nuclear bomb out of one of those?
Right.
They didn't have jets back then. They were
Right.
propeller planes, right?
Right.
The Enola Gay, wasn't that a propeller plane?
Yeah.
Dropping the most sophisticated of weapons. Yeah. No one knows what's going to happen when a new invention happens, and then everyone builds on that invention. No one would have ever imagined hypersonic jets back when Wilbur and Orville were floating around that stupid fucking wooden thing they invented.
Right.
And so no one understands, like, what's the 50-year quantum computing thing? If it's 50 years from making the airplane to dropping a bomb out of it, how many years is it from quantum computing thing to God? How many years is it until this thing starts making better versions of itself to the point where it literally can manipulate everything in the universe at will? It can create new universes.
It's unbelievable to think about it. It's almost beyond the grasp of our mind to consider.
It is.
It is fully, and it's terrifying.
Think of those stupid cars that people used to drive around in. Like
Right.
1823, everyone said. Or
Yeah, of course.
Drive around those stupid cars, and now they have electric cars like a Tesla that can go 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
Right.
Nobody saw
Right.
any of this shit. Waymos. Somebody saw Waymos when they saw
Right.
Model T, but yet they're all here.
Right.
But no one knows where this is going. It's all just speculation and guessing. And I would imagine that even the most creative minds are not going to be able to see where this is going.
No. It's insane.
And we're living through it. And
Yeah.
most people, unlike you and I, that like have to talk about shit constantly, most people probably aren't even paying attention.
Yeah. No. Why would you? It's almost pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you? You gotta work, and you gotta, your kid needs hormone therapy.
1,000%. So it's like we create AI. AI creates quantum computing. Quantum computing creates God. God creates the Jews. That's the rub.
It's all real wild. And in the middle, we're fighting over stupid shit. Like
I know.
who believes in this religion? Who believes in that
That
religion? The Sunnis and the Shiites fighting each
And
other.
people are watching Love on the Spectrum, which is why we're number 8 on Netflix's top 10, and we should be higher. But they're watching Love on the Spectrum, which I get. It's a feel-good show.
Well,
Fine.
hopefully after this podcast, it'll
That's very sweet.
And you filmed the special.
And the mothership, and everybody loves
Mothership.
it, and it's great. I mean, a lot of people love it. Most people love it. Of course, there's enough of this fat blowhard comments, but the vast majority of people enjoy it, which is important. And the show, and you saved it. We know you saved it.
Well,
The first one was very bad. And
the
this,
producers are making this
horrible
error
mistakes
that they always make. They want to light up the room,
Yeah.
and they want to do things very differently than a normal show.
Yeah.
But that looks just like a regular
That's
show.
a comedy show.
Perfect.
And it's not a.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they were doing with the
They
lights.
always do it. They
Yeah.
try to do it with me when I first started doing specials. They want to light the room up, and it just makes everybody uncomfortable. They all
Yeah.
feel self-conscious. They all know it's different. There's a reason why comedy clubs are dark.
That's just super funny. It's super funny to do a show. I've done so many shows there. They're all really, really, really good. And then you get the cameras and everything. And then the first one, I go, what the fuck is happening? It would be one thing if I was in like Portland, Maine at like a liberal college.
Right.
I'd go, okay, well, maybe these kids don't like me or something. And I think maybe
It was still good. It was just tense.
It was
You could
tense.
feel that people were well aware that you were filming, and it was
Yeah.
different, and they were like not in it.
Yeah.
They were watching it, and then thank God they listened to me.
No,
Thank God.
I mean, come on.
It was like right away. I was like, okay, who's running this?
Yeah.
Get these fucking lights off all the tables.
We saved
Put
it.
all these lights on the side. Kill those.
Yeah.
Let me see it now.
We
No,
saved it.
too bright. Kill that. Why is that light there? Kill that. Kill all these
Yeah.
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God. But look, it's important. People need
appreciate it. Get love.
shit talking.
Stop with this love on the spectrum. We get it.
Yeah.
They're happy,
I'm your
as
mother.
they should be. But RFK is going to...
What did you want to call it that they wouldn't let you?
My son's pussy.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they said no to that. There was negative feedback.
You gotta get negative feedback. No
They
matter
also
what.
didn't know about the Kevin Spacey promo until the day it came out.
I think My Son's Pussy would have
bad.
made it number one.
I think My Son's Pussy would have been a great move.
It would have been number one out of the
next
gate. Out of the gate.
Okay,
It would
I
be
like
like,
it.
I'm clicking on this.
That's right.
What is he saying?
That's right. Fuck you, Lonesome Canyon. The soap opera. I forgot.
Netflix has almost too much content. I think
A lot of
it's great.
content.
I love Netflix. Don't get me wrong, and I think the UFC might be going to Netflix soon.
Wild.
Wild. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, because Netflix is international. It's everywhere.
It's everything, yeah.
I was in Italy and on vacation, and I tried to access a UFC fight through my
Couldn't get it.
ESPN app, and it said not available in this area. I was like,
Yeah.
what are these people watching now?
Right.
Can't even watch the fights.
No, I mean, they've won the stream. Whatever the streaming war was, they won.
They won.
They won.
Yeah.
They did it.
Mm.
They did it.
YouTube as well.
Well, YouTube's number one.
Yeah.
Globally is the biggest media company.
Yeah, and the UFC, probably talk to YouTube as well. I
Right.
just think there's a thing about the subscription model versus free, and ads and the generating income. I mean, you're talking about billion-dollar corporations.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
For sure. For sure. But no, they were super cool. They didn't give any notes, and that's awesome.
Great. No,
That's
they're-
all you want.
Netflix is fucking great.
They're the best.
And I think they learned a big lesson during the wokeness era, like when things got dark and there was the Inquisition. It got real weird, and they were putting on a lot of stuff that was just hot garbage because they
Yeah.
thought that this was like what culture wanted and society wanted,
Yeah.
but the numbers didn't work.
Yeah.
And then they did the Tom Brady roast, and the numbers were the highest that they've ever had of any show ever on
Right.
Netflix.
Yeah.
And like, okay, we get it.
We got it.
We get it. And then they did a lot of the live comedy shows where they couldn't control it, and I
Right.
did mine live.
Yeah.
That was,
They
got buck wild.
And they defend Chappelle and all these
Yep.
things. They understand comedy. They like it. Tex Rander's a fan of it. See, so I think that's good. I think that's a really good thing that you have a platform that has that much power and,
yes.
and
Tex Rander's
accessibility.
is fucking great.
No, he's awesome. I think that there's people that really understand that that you need to have funny jokes. You need to have things that people don't love and things that people like, and give people the Meghan Markle show. Give them my dumb thing. Let people choose. Put me and Meghan Markle in a thing. Make us work together.
Yes.
Fund it.
Now we're
put me in a
talking.
kitchen
Camping.
with her. This is camping. This is the direction.
You two.
This is the put her on Kill Tony. This is the direction.
You two.
It's a collision.
What are those little silver things called? The people trailers.
I don't know, but I think we should go to space. Have Bezos do it.
Airstreams.
Yeah.
You and her in
I
an
mean,
airstream.
or even better, we're going to space.
Yeah.
Me and her have
That's
a-
only 11 minutes.
Oh, that's
We
all
need a
we're
whole
gonna. That's
series.
all that's gonna work.
I want
Well,
to see your
11 minutes
speech
is
when you
good.
come back and land. How profoundly changed you were.
Yeah.
Did you grow? Did you heal?
Yeah, no,
You
not
said
at
that
all.
space was going to help you heal.
I'm worse.
Everybody wants to heal. Isn't that wild?
I know, it's so silly.
What are you healing from exactly?
Being rich. What's your disease? Extreme wealth.
These people wading across the Rio Grande with a butthole full
Yeah.
of fentanyl.
That's right.
They found some lady the other day that had she had heroin and cocaine and fentanyl stuffed in all of her body cavities. They caught her coming through, and that lady's not trying to heal.
No, I mean,
She's
God.
trying to make $13.
That's tough. Heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl
like
in all of
eggs. She had it in her anus and her vagina,
in all of your body
like
cavities.
tightly wrapped. Here they are, little eggs. Here it says. What does it say at the top? CBP officer intercept woman transporting drugs in multiple internal cavities.
That's so funny, dude.
33 years old. The drugs are hidden in the rectum and vagina of a 33-year-old female U.S. citizen pedestrian border crosser. Smuggling case was not an isolated incident. Over the weekend, CBP officers working at PDN and Setla crossing stopped a total of 9 internal carriers who were transporting fentanyl and methamphetamine from Mexico to the U.S. Internal carriers is a fun way to talk about it. It's like uterus holders.
Well, hey, what did you say? What they call this? Containers?
Yeah.
I mean, she's doing it.
She's doing it. Wow. Exceptionally dangerous practice. And anyone thinking about smuggling drugs inside their body or at all should strongly reconsider their choices. Oh, you think these people have choices? These people are dying. They're starving to death. They have no future.
Strongly reconsider their choices.
They just need better counseling.
That's right.
That's all it is.
That's right.
And they need to heal. They need to get in space.
Well,
maybe
show
they need to
that
take that
woman.
lady and
Show that
putting her
woman.
in jail.
Yeah.
Maybe throw her in space.
Show that woman, Katy Perry.
Her and Amy Schumer up in a
Yeah,
fucking
everyone
satellite.
should go up. I'll do it. Me, Amy Schumer, and Meghan Markle in space. That's a show. That's an 11-minute show.
What about Meghan McCain? Should do with that?
I would absolutely do it. All of us together. You know, why not?
I'd watch that.
Of course.
I'd watch that. And then